Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me for this great brush review. This one is on Escoda black set and the green set. It makes sense to kind of compare the two in this same video because they are so similar. I mean, both of the sets come with a wash brush. In the black set, you get a 16 Versatil, and in the green set, it has a Barocco 16. In the green set, it has a bright brush, which is more of a square brush, Escoda size 12 Prado, and in the black set, there is a Perla size 12. Then, as far as detail, there is a rigger brush here. In the green set, that is Escoda Ultimo size 4, one of my favorite brushes. And here, there's a Dagger brush, very similar with a point, and this is the Escoda 1/4 inch Perla. So these two sets really do line up very similarly, and that's why I got them both, because they kind of match my style of painting really, really well. And I find that if you have a good match on your style and painting in a brush set, that it's worth trying. But of course, these comparisons are really valuable because we don't always know exactly what brushes to choose, and it's really hard to make that decision without brush comparisons. So I also set aside a bunch of brushes that I do work with in the studio often so that we can compare and contrast from regular squirrel to the synthetic squirrel, and regular sable to the synthetic sable, as well as a regular flat brush compared to the brights, and how much water these will all hold. I also pulled a couple of rounds just in comparison to see if you could get along with just your travel brush set and not have to bring any additional sets with you. I'm also going to do some like mock paintings, not just the brush tests, because the standard tests really do show you some things, but not all things, and really you need to paint. So we're going to do some painting as we go along here with these brushes. Should be a really nice brush review, and I think we're going to learn a lot about the brushes and hopefully a lot about what applies to your style. So what you're looking at here is just pages from my sketchbook, and I am doing actually a sketchbook course over on my website at jacquelinejacks.com. So if you're interested in learning how to organize a sketchbook and keep a daily journal of your life, you might really, really enjoy looking at this course. I think it's so much fun to keep a daily journal and to do it in paint, where you are mapping out what your summer was like or your travel or your vacation was like, and taking these pages away with you are even better. So I did a sketchbook course on it, and I thought this would really, really be a fun thing to do. I've been enjoying it, and as we move through the course and I keep filming, I'm going to divide into florals, urban painting, and landscapes. So there's something in there for everyone depending on what you like. Okay, so let's go to the brush section of my sketchbook right now, where I've been doing these brush tests. So you can see there's a lot of things to learn from brushes. A lot of things we always like to know is how much water they hold, because that has to do with the paint distribution on the paper and how it's going to react to the paint, and whether you can do interesting shapes with it or not, and how much paint it's going to deliver to the surface of the paper. That really matters, because when you're looking to get textures and things and not just a very flat wash, then that's going to be the brush that's going to change the way that maps out, right? Like some brushes are going to be a nice even wash, where some are going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to work a little harder on them. And then some brushes are going to deliver some really nice shapes and maybe allow you to do petals in one stroke. So we're going to look at things like that today. Definitely. I have some notes here on what I think of these brush styles in general, as I have used all of these so far and done different performance ratings on them as well too. Yeah, so we've got some like squirrel brushes that came from Da Vinci. These Cosmotop, they came with this set from Schminky, and I really like them, but they are regular natural hair, which can be really hard for a beginner to paint with if you really don't know what you're doing. Then I have some of my favorites, like the Escode 10 Versatil. I love this brush. I just recently got it because I had this rigger, which is the Escode 2, in Prado, and I just loved it. So I wanted to try more of the riggers from Escoda, and you know what? They definitely make my favorite riggers so far. I also grabbed these two travel brushes. This is the Escoda Ultimo size 10 and Escoda Ultimo size 6. I really do like the Ultimos so far, and in this set there is one Ultimo in the green set, and it's the rigger, which I do not have. So it will be nice to test the rigger out and see how that compares to my experience with the Versatil and my experience with the Prado rigger. I also have a flat brush. This is a Prado 3/4 inch because there is a Prado Bright here in size 12. So of course they're not the same size, but this is a travel set. So I would just want to see if the snap is consistent, and if it delivers a similar result to this. I thought I'd grab a larger one because really a lot of people get confused with the fact that maybe a smaller brush doesn't perform as well as a larger brush, and it's mainly just because it doesn't hold as much water or paint. So they're not really comparing apples to apples, right? The larger brush is good for larger surfaces because it can hold more. So there are some little things that we're going to consider as we move along, just well knowing that this is a travel brush set, so it's really, really meant for sketchbooks and taking with you. They come in these really nice boxes. I love that. And I love the fact that it has this little canvas, if I can get it out, this little canvas holder. It's adorable. This is really, really pretty. So it's got almost like a faux leather strap embossed with Escoda. Really well made. I mean, this is just such a quality brand. And if you were lucky enough to catch the Jackson sale, which I did, you got like 50% off almost. I mean, it was such a good deal, right? Normally they're just under $100 US, and I think that the sale got them out at like $58, which is pretty neat. So in the black set, this one is the size 16 Versatil. So the Versatil, or Versatile, whatever you decide to call it, I feel like this is the most used brush as far as beginner artists or any artist. They tend to sell a lot of these because it's midway in between like a synthetic and the looseness of a squirrel, right? Where the Ultimo is a lot looser, the Versatil is somewhere in between. So it'll be nice to test the performance of this wash brush against the regular squirrel wash brush, and also the other wash brush that comes with the other set. This is a Dagger brush. The Dagger brushes are easily recognized because they are cut on an angle like a sword or a dagger, and they are great for leaves and, you know, doing different effects. Sometimes they're excellent for detail. This one is a Perla 1/4 inch. One thing about Perla is they do tend to have a fine tip. They can be really good for negative painting because you can get in there with the fine tip. They offer really good control, and you can really load a lot of pigment on the brush. The thing is they don't hold a lot of water, but I don't think that they're really meant to. It's more of a strength of color, and it doesn't lift color. So you wouldn't want to use this brush because it's gentle and it's got a specific tip. You wouldn't want to use this for like the regular rubbing or scrubbing or anything. This is very delicate brush. So if you do like this kind of a brush, it's mostly for the effect of the brush and the tip that it offers. You don't want to wear it out, but it will wear out more quickly than other brushes. That's what I find with the white. I can't remember what the synthetic is called, like tourmaline or something. Escoda Perla is the other brush in a bright style, which is basically like a little flat. It's a size 12 as compared to other flats that I've had. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Of course, it's not going to hold a lot of water because of the kind of brush that it is. If this was an Ultimo, it would hold a ton of water, but it's a Perla. So the Perla tends to have a really fine tip, which it does. It's very, very flat and skinny. It might be good for negative painting, I would think. It might be good for control, urban sketching, things like that, right? Does it lift color? This might. I don't know. I'm not thinking it will because it doesn't hold a lot of water. And so usually you dip your brush in water and then you run it over the surface or kind of do it damp, and it would have to draw in the paint and the water at the same time, and I don't think that this really is going to do that. So that's the black set. Some really good qualities in that set for sure, but you know, of course, every brush is not going to do everything for you, and that's okay. This is the green set. Nice canvas bag again, embossed. I love the quality of these bags, and you know, you could even attach something else that you need, like you can put your clip here for your travel set and just clip it onto something. You can also put an extra brush in here. So if you did want to bring another travel brush, seriously, the back of this, say you want more than one brush, I bet you I could fit 2, maybe 3 extra brushes in here. Yeah, I could, definitely. So you could actually use one to carry 5, maybe even 6 if you had a thin, you know, a thin, smaller one. Yeah, if you had another one of these, you could easily fit 6 brushes in one of these cases. And that is a major, major plus, seeing that extra little pocket in the back. That's on all of the travel brush sets. Okay, let's take a look at these brushes. All right, so I'm not really familiar with the Barocco and what it does or how it is. I feel like it bends and it snaps back, but it doesn't have as much snap as some of the other ones. But it feels pretty good. I'd like to know more about the Barocco actually, so we might actually look that up and read what they meant for the Barocco to do. This is a size 12 Prado, so we know that Prado so far usually is pretty close to a sable brush in synthetic. It's good for detail. It has a nice tip. It can be used for negative painting. It tends to hold more water than the Perla, which is what I usually look for because that offers me more flexibility. It lifts color well, and it's more of a workhorse like the Versatil. You know, the Prado and the Versatil, I would say you can use a lot more and you can scrub with because they just hold up better. This would hold up to a lot more pressure and give you a lot more workability. So if you are a scrubber, definitely look at the Prados for that because they'll last you longer. The Perla would just wear out really, really quick. And the last one here is the Escoda Ultimo size 4. I have no doubt this is going to be a great brush because what I love about the Ultimos in this line is they hold a lot of water. So perfect for watercolor and offering you a lot of flexibility because they tend to have larger bellies. And when it has a larger belly, you can do a lot more in your painting style, especially if you're doing like loose paintings or you like that distribution of color, you know, where for example, where if you take like one stroke, it's not just going to be one color, right? It's going to kind of mix in some of the water to mix up the color right when you do the stroke. And that's the benefit of having a little more water in your brush, which is more of like the traditional watercolor brush. Otherwise, you know, when a brush doesn't hold a lot of water, even though it's meant to be a brush for watercolor, it's more to me like an acrylic brush, you know, or like a mixed media brush rather than just a dedicated water brush, but that's just my opinion. So let's put these back and we will get to painting. Okay. It's here. Okie dokie. So I have some water by my side so that I can easily dip in water. Also, I wanted to let you know about this brush cleaner. I love it. It's really, really a good brush cleaner. And especially for the brushes that are made with the, you know, the white hair, which is the white Toray. You're going to need a brush cleaner because it's really difficult. Like I tested this brush out right before just to see what it was like, and as you can see, I've washed it like 3 times and I literally can't get the blue out. So the only thing about the white Toray is I find that it's really hard to get some of the staining colors out of the brush. This helped a lot so that at least when I dip it back in water, it's clean, it's just still stained. So that's why you see a little bit of the blue still in there. It's amazing that I cannot get it out though. It just goes to show you that, you know, just because you can't see it on the brown bristles, your paint probably has stained your bristles, but it's a little annoying I find on the white brushes, but you know, it's not bad as long as you can get the color out. So I think we'll do a dedicated page to the black set. So this is the Escoda black brush set. And I got another page for the green. Probably, I would say I'll eventually do the other sets maybe around Christmas time when they have another sale, because I really wanted to get a lot of other brushes first. And but at the same time, I thought it was really neat to try out some of these brush sets, because I've been looking at them for quite a while. Okay, so let me just put a little line there. Okay, let's start with the black one since I've got this out. So what I learned so far in testing this out was that the Versatil had a really nice distribution of water. The Barocco, what it's meant to, as far as the website says one of the most popular synthetic hairs for watercolor, made with similar characteristics to the white Toray, but this has a combination of superior diameter that allows for more spring. I did notice that it has a lot of spring, but it also has a lot of play in it. And they're advertising that the Barocco is good for being able to do an entire piece of work. And I could see where it is, but I still kind of overall, in comparison to these, I still really loved the performance of the Versatil, and I love the performance of the Ultimo. So if I had a choice, I would choose the Versatil or the Ultimo over the Barocco. But with that being said, you know, we're going to get further into that as we do this brush review. So I'm going to choose the wash brush first. This is the Versatil. Versatile, size 16. So let's just dip it in water. We'll get a nice paint color on it here. Get out my little palette. Oh, I've got some color in there already. So immediately dipping it in water, the brush loads up with water so easily, which is what you would expect. As far as strength of color, I'm using a pan of paint instead of tube paint. It pulls a nice amount of color once the paint is pliable, right? And kind of jelly. But yeah, nice. I like it. So right off the bat, the feel is it can get nice and wet. So very similar to the Ultimo. And it holds a decent amount of color. Feels very soft under your hand. It doesn't drag, so the bristles are really nice and smooth. And I'm able to mix the paint on the palette really easily. So now that we have our brush loaded, let's just go ahead and make a wash line. Yeah, completely juicy, filled with water, good distribution of color. Color's starting to get weaker now, but this brush can go a long way. So definitely does a great job with that. Let's take a look now if I load it with just a little more color. And we're going to use the tip. So I can do some pretty good things with the tip. It's not bad. It's pliable. It isn't really a tight tip, but it's a really nice tip to work with. It's very soft. If I lay the tip down more, then I'm going to get the use of the belly of the brush because this has a really large belly. You can see what I love about that is when the water mixes with the paint, it gives you like a little more depth of color to a lighter wash. And that's really handy with petals. So I still have water in my brush, and if I was going to do like a flower, then I literally wouldn't have to work very hard. Just laying the belly down. See what I mean? And then you can go back in and use the tip to give it a little more color. So really easy, you know, right off the bat. I mean, you don't really have to do much. And as far as the leaves, here, let's wash the color out. We'll get another color. Washes out really, really fast. That's a major plus. Let's grab some of this green. I'm just kind of rolling the color in. It holds so much water that, you know, it's easy. And create a little leaf shape. Not bad. It does petals better than leaves, but of course, depends on your leaf shape. It really does a great job. The thing I love about this is just in one swoop, when the belly hits, see, you end up with the depth of color here that you can work around, and then it automatically gives you that light phase. And I love that. I think that that's really, really cool, you know? And plus it just goes on forever. So literally, you know, if you wanted to do designs, it gives you tons. You don't have to reload the brush that often. And it gives you a lot of color still in the brush to play with. So something I liked about the Ultimo when I first worked with it. Isn't that nice? That's really nice. So it really does. It does a great job. And as far as if I were to wash out some of the color and maybe mix the two and do a little bit of a background wash, I can get a nice background wash as well. So that really, so for being such a big brush, I think this is wonderful, because this is not this is an average. Like this page would be like your smaller sketchbook page. So I can literally sketch. I can give nice washes. It lays enough color down. And I can do, you know, glazes. I can go over. I can do negative painting. Let's try a little negative painting in that side. We'll choose another color. Let's see what this one's like. Mix it in with my others. And for negative painting, you have to be able to go in the bottom. So if I needed to do negative painting, it could do it. What I probably would do is I would take some of the color off of the brush, because it does have a sharp tip, so not bad really. I think some of these other ones included are going to be better for the negative painting. But if you have a steady hand, this can happen. The thing that it won't do in this size is it will give you nice washed color, but it's not going to give you a really heavy color. But with that being said, if you want to do something like I just did, where you want to wash the color out without there being any streaks, this will definitely do it. So this will add the granulation. So if you're a granulated painter and you like granulated paint, because there's a lot of water in this brush, you can add granulated paint to your background very easily, and you're not adding water, you're not having to reload the brush. Just fill it up with color and then drop in the granulated paint wherever you want it. So that's a really, really good plus when you're painting, because if you had to reload the paint and you didn't have enough water on the brush, it would be really hard to pull out the granulated effects, the granulating effects. You see what I mean? So that's, to me, that's just makes a really good wash brush. So Versatil size 16 definitely fares my test so well for multiple uses. So rinsing it out. Let's see how good it rinses out. Yep, wonderful. Rinsed out clean and clear, just with a little swishing. Didn't have to do much. Then just shape it back up and we're ready to go. Good job. All right, so let's take the second one, and this is the size 12 Perla. So this is the white Touré, I think it's called. Again, there is some staining that happens on the brush. Choose our same color. I'm so excited to try and get the blue out again. It's the only part that doesn't really excite me much. But that's okay. So this is the Perla, size 12. Okay, as far as will it give you a lot of water and a lot of paint? Not really. You can see, but it does do dry brush well. So it's not really a wash brush at all. However, I do like the dry brush effect. That's really cool. So for a precise flat tip, definitely have to reload it with color each time though, so dip it into water because it's a very dry brush, as you can tell. But this is a good way to get dry brush effects. I wouldn't, however, think that this is going to last a long time if you do a ton of dry brushing with it, because it's just not, this white Touré just doesn't strike me as a, a brush that can be beat up. I think it's going to last a long time, but if you use it every single day, you might see some difference in the brush. But it is built very thin, so there's really not much that can, I don't know if the point would fray or not. We'll have to see that over time. Let's see what else we can do with it. So I'm going to load the brush with as much water as I can get in there and a lot of paint. And I'm just going to lay it down and see what it does. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. It blops the paint in one space and then, yeah, it blops the paint in one space. So it's really not a lay down kind of brush, but you can go back and then just do a swipe to move the paint around. And because you have a precise tip, you can get kind of a drawing effect with the brush, which kind of makes me feel that this is a good negative painting brush. So you would want to do your painting with a different brush, although I can do some painting with it, but it takes a little more effort, and it's going to be a different effect, right? It's not going to be as blended because not enough water is being delivered to the paper. This is wet on dry. We could try, let's try a little wet on wet. So I'm going to add some water. And we're going to try the same thing again. Yeah, so not really. It doesn't hold enough paint for it to really put anything down on the paper. So all it really does is just disperse the water. So not really helpful there as far as painting. I think the brush is good for those fine details, So if I were gonna build, like say I was trying to do some building shapes, then it has a really nice precise look that I could model into some urban architecture. You know what I mean? Because it allows you to just do some drawing with it and have those different shapes. So you could utilize the tip to get that. You know what I mean? So if I was going to like do, and then I can go back in, since this likes to deliver color just kind of precisely, I could go back in and add layers, you know, for windows, for doors, you know what I mean, to shape up some of these areas. So it's got a really good application as far as being part of a set. Could you do a whole painting with it? Not likely, because, you know, there's a lot of, it's a very choppy delivery of color. So I think that dry brushing is probably better. So if I were going to do like a little sketch of a flower, I would just kind of load the color on, like dip it in a little bit of water, load the color on, and do more dry brush. And I think that is a better use of this brush. So not your traditional stuff. Perhaps even like to move some, you might be able to move some watercolor pencil around with this brush, you know. Thing is that I wonder how much beating it will take. I mean, it feels fine. It doesn't feel like it's, I mean, it feels like it drags a little bit, which is what you need to do a lot of this dry brushing, you know? But that's kind of neat. So it gives you like that ability to just kind of paint through. Now let's wash the brush out and I'll show you what I mean. So here's a clean piece of paper. I rinse the brush out the same way I did the other one, and I still end up with color in the brush. So it does hold on to color more, and on top of it you can see it. So now I'm going to use a little bit of brush soap, and you can see how much color is still even after rinsing this brush out. This is what I'm saying about this brush, is you have to really be careful to use your lighter colors first if you're traveling with it, because you might not always have the ability to rinse the brush out. You can see how much color it really holds on to. So I put a lot of soap in that. And I'm just going to kind of smoosh it around, and then I'm going to try and wipe it off, because this is about all I would be able to do if I were traveling, you know, and I was outside with it. And then I would have to rinse it out into some water. Not the water being used for my mixes and brushes though. And then pretty decent. It still has more color in it. So the bizarre thing is I just can't seem to get the color completely out of these brushes when it's a staining color. Something to think about. So you definitely, if you're working outside and you want, just say you wanted to go from blue to yellow, that might not be a possibility with this brush. You might want to keep this brush just in one color, you know, like maybe just do the blues and the greens with it, because as you can see, even after all of that work, I'm still trying to get the color completely out of the brush, and it just really doesn't want to get out of there. And I think that's because the brush doesn't hold a ton of water, so I really kind of have to scrub at it, which will wear the brush out a lot sooner. But okay, almost got it out. So a couple of cleans and I probably could get this further out. But that's the only disappointing thing about the white Terray. Okay, so our next one, so it does dry brush well though, is the 1/4 inch Perla. And this is the white Terray as well. Let's do a less staining color and see if it comes out a little easier, because I kind of am dreading yeah, I'm kind of dreading like trying to clean it again. What would be less staining? Maybe Indian yellow? I don't know, is Indian yellow staining? I feel like it's not that staining, but let's hope not. Okay, so it doesn't hold a ton of water because it is the white terray. So I do have to kind of make my mix a little more soupy here. But it does deliver a nice amount of water because of the length of the brush. It holds enough to deliver it, but you do have to re-dip it again. Yeah, pretty consistent. Look at that. Really consistent. So without a doubt, it gives you a lot in the beginning, but it only gives you so much. So I would say that this would be good for detail. So I could draw things with the point. So maybe like draw in some rough flower shapes. And use the side, you know, the dagger shape, to just kind of give myself some nice little washes. And this is really handy because I have a very, very wet mix of yellow here, so that I don't have to dip my brush in the water and then dip my brush in the paint. So I'm able to draw, which is pretty good. So this would be good for a sketchbook for sure. And then we can get some really nice, let me switch colors here so you can see this better. All right, so I'm rinsing. Yeah, it still holds on to the color. It really does. Haha, that's funny. And you know, the thing is you can see it. So like, it's a brush that not only holds on to the color more than other brushes, but you can see it because it's white. That's really interesting to me. However, it does some pretty nice shapes. So it is a very nice precision brush, you know. Yeah, so you can like do some really cool shapes and it will deliver the color in different ways. So for botanicals, this is a great brush to have because of the point, the tip. Now, a tip like this, especially in the white terray, I would say is not going to last a lifetime or anything. You know, you're going to have to replace this brush a little more often if you use it all the time. But brushes are meant to be used, and it's not a hugely expensive brush, especially if you get it on the Jackson sale. I believe there's another sale that they do on Black Friday for Christmas, and then they just had the sale, the August Au Plein Air sale. So there's usually a summer sale and some nice Christmas sales, especially Black Friday. So make your wish list. Go to Jackson's. I'm pretty sure they ship everywhere. If you can wait, get the regular shipping because it's very economical. And I did the regular shipping, and here in Canada, it shipped to me in just a few days. It wasn't bad. In some cases, if they're really busy and I'm ordering very late on a sale, maybe it'll take 10 days, but not bad at all. They get the regular shipping out really easily. So I'm kind of really having fun right now doing these brush shapes with this, because it's got, the reason why this works really well is because of the precision and the thing with the point, but also the snap of the brush. And it's delivering just enough water on that initial stroke, as we saw here. So it holds just enough water because of the size and the length of it. And that's why you didn't really see it in the other white Perla, because it's a very short brush, so that's a much different effect. But this is very, very cool, and I can go back and add some additional shapes with this brush. So I would say this brush, for what it is a complete win, and is really, really fun to paint leaves with. I would also imagine that it would do tree shapes pretty easily. Or maybe stems. The thing is I kind of don't like to do stems going down. I like to do stems going up. So if I use it, I mean, I don't love it because the minute you switch directions on the stem, then you get a thicker shape as opposed to like a rigger, right? So not as great for stems. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Let's get this rigger out. So if I load this with water, it holds a decent amount of water, and this is the Prado rigger. And if I wanted to do a tree trunk, see, I can do that, and I get this like a branch like quality, you know what I mean? And then I can also work on the trunk as well with the same brush. And it holds a decent amount of water, so I just have to reload the paint. I don't have to reload anything else, and I get this nice precise point, you know? So let me just mark this. So you can see here was a lot more of a struggle, and also this brush rinses out like so quickly. So this was the size 2 Prado rigger. So let me just write that so I don't forget. Comparison. Let's try this one more time. So we're just gonna load it with water, dip it in color, and see if I go down a little bit. I could probably do a tree trunk with it. Yeah. And so it makes kind of like different, makes the branches. Yeah, I just really I feel like I would fight with it a little bit. It's good. Oh, that's kind of neat. So if I really, really load the color, then I get more of the effect that I'm looking for. But still, it doesn't give me, I like what it did there. So not bad. I mean, if I only had this set with me, it would do it. You know what I mean? I could do the trees. But there is room for more, so you can always add something else. Like maybe take the rigger out of this one. I'll bet that would work. Okay. So it does okay on the tree. I'm not crazy about it for trees, but I love it for the leaves. I think the leaves, you know, and even decent on petals. And to do, again, this, I think that it does dry brushing pretty well, you know. And then you can kind of just use it. So if you wanted something that you could draw with, you can easily draw with this. Some really loose drawing, not precise drawing. So what would it do if we wanted to do like a little bit of background? Let's see if it does negative painting well. So initially it delivers water and color, and it's a pretty nice even wash. And then I can get in those really fine areas with it. So yeah, it doesn't, the amount of paint and water doesn't last a long time, but look, that's a pretty decent area for a sketchbook. So yeah, I think this set is really well thought out from their brush line because it does offer you the ability to do a lot of different kinds of paintings. The tip allows you to really get in there for negative painting, and it holds just enough water for me to be able to do it if I have a wet mix to work with. Yeah, so pretty good. I think the only thing right now that I would worry about was just being able to do a lot of different colors. But you know, typically in a travel set, you're not going to need to paint with a ton of different color switches because you don't want to utilize your water. You know, you don't want to waste a lot of your water rinsing out your brushes constantly. So most people will do one color at a time when they're doing travel or sketchbook stuff. They're not switching up colors on every stroke, right? Or you're going from one color to another, so you're mixing right on your page, meaning that you're starting with the lightest, the yellows, you're adding your blues, and then you're getting to your greens that way. And so this would be fine for that. So as a travel brush, yep, it works, and it's doing the negative painting just beautifully. And I haven't had to, as long as I have a really nice wet wash in my palette, I can just kind of pick up the colors and the water at the same time and really fill that negative space so well. And then at the same time, I can go and, you know, just add some nice little dry brush effects. It's a very soft brush because it's really long though, so you don't want to overwork with it because you will wear that tip out. It's very, very fine. That tip is fine. All right, so let's try and rinse this out. I'm not going to drag it. I'm just going to rinse it in the water, but I'm going to not drag it against the edges of the bottom of my water container because I don't want to mess my tip up. So it still stains, and no, all the color unfortunately does not come out. It's not bad though. It didn't hold as much, but it definitely needs the brush wash to get it out, which you aren't likely to have with you or available to you. So all that means is when you're working on your sketchbook, once you do your colors, you want to work from light to dark, just knowing that you really can't get a clean yellow out of this without the blue being in there or the green being in there or the other colors. So when you use a staining color or a darker color, it definitely is going to show up in your wash if you go back to a lighter color. But as long as you know that, you know, I mean, every brush has its limitations. I'm kind of wondering why they didn't make this into a fiber that would wash out better. Yeah, again, just like the other, it's this white terray. It just really does not want to let go of the color. So you really, again, don't think you're going to paint every color with this and, you know, then go back to a light color. I got it out for the most part, but it's going to require a little more work, and that would be kind of tricky when you're out there. But for the most, I really like this brush set. I think it really does a lot of really cool things. Can I say really one more time? It was pretty flexible as far as my rating. I'm going to have to think about if I would give it 3 or 4 stars out of 5. I wouldn't give it 5. The Versatil definitely makes the set. Without the Versatil, I probably wouldn't buy this set. I do love the fact that I have something in here to make these really neat leaves. I can manufacture them with the Versatil, but in a much different way. You don't get that really fine kind of gentle point that it gives. The Perla 12, I don't really know that I need this shape that much, because I could have really just maybe just had a regular round in here, but I don't know. It's kind of neat. I'd have to work with it more before I make my final decision as far as rating. Okay, so let's have a little sip of coffee. And how are we doing so far? You hanging in there with me? This is a very long brush review because I'm doing 2 at once. Thank God for coffee. I have a feeling I'm going to like this one though, but I don't know that I'm going to love this brush. And I know that's a terrible way to start. But just seeing what knowing what I know and just feeling the brush, I kind of have a little inkling into how workable this brush is going to be for me in particular. I would love to know if my painting style and the things that I look for in a brush are the same as you. It would really help me with my brush reviews, because a lot of times I'll do these brush reviews and not know if I'm applying to all the different styles out there. It's kind of hard to think about that, you know? Okay, so let's grab our blue again. So it loads really, really well with color. It holds a decent amount of water. I would say equal to the Versatil, not as much as the Ultimo. And it disperses the color really well. And does pretty good. It washes the color out a lot faster. This one held color a little bit more. This one releases the color real quick in the beginning, and then it gets and then it kind of you end up with the wash, and that's exactly what it did on my first trial. It has a nice point though. It's got a decent snap, very soft brush. So as far as the lines, it gives a little bit, because it's a little snappier, a little lighter brush, not as thick. It gives a little skinnier line. Holds enough water where you can keep painting, and holds enough color where you can keep painting, not as strongly. Like you can see the Versatil holds the color more. And as far as this goes, still got a lot of color and water in the brush. So it performs really well, very similar to the Versatil. But as you can see, it dumps the color pretty quickly in the beginning, and then you end up with a lighter wash where you would have to reload your brush a little more often. So depending on how you paint and what you expect, you know, your expectations on your brushes. I can feel that it doesn't hold as much water as the Versatil, and I'm going to get out an Ultimo in just a second. So let's try and do that petal. Decent petal shapes. So I could do some decent petal shapes with this. Does hold a lot of water. And I can go back in with that nice fine point and add some extra effects. So my flower, that can work out. Does it nice petals. Let's try another one of these. I'm just going to keep painting with this until it runs out of color. So the belly is lost a lot of color, but the tip has a lot of extra color in it. So it's kind of giving me a very different opportunity as it starts to wear out, you know. So I say opportunity because when you're painting, your brush is the opportunity. You know, how much water and how much paint is in your brush is an opportunity to make a certain effect. Not bad. So at this point, I think, unless I wanted some really light, you know, drawing in like a much lighter color, or some like some leaves in more of a pastel color, I can keep going with the brush, but it's not going to give me, you know, the depth of color that I originally had. But with that being said, I mean, look at how long I'm going on one thing. So very much like the Versatil and the Ultimo, this brush gives you a nice, you know, distribution. So let's just load it up again, and we're going to do a little wash section over here. Nice even wash, just like the others. So in that way, it does equal the Versatil and the Ultimo. I would just say that if you wanted a wash with a depth of color, this wouldn't be able to deliver it to you like the other ones would. Here's an Ultimo size 10. So let's just get this one out and So of course it's a smaller brush. This is a size 16 and this is a 10. But load it with color. I don't know where my Ultimo wash brush is. I think I put it away. I do have a really big wash brush, but I think we're gonna be able to do an equal test anyway. So we're just gonna do this. So see what I mean by the Ultimo, how the color is just deeper, and even a smaller brush is gonna be able to do a deeper wash. I find that in the larger brush as well, because I have a really big Ultimo. I think it's either a size 16 or 18. You know, so the color depth is the big thing that the Ultimo can give you, because it's got such a big belly, so it sucks up a lot of color, but yet you still have this ability to do these nice shapes. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I prefer the Ultimo over the Barocco, but the Barocco performs really well. And if this is a travel set that you really love, you know, it's the green set, I think, is one of the better travel sets that they have available. The brush washes out so well. I mean, it just washes out good. It doesn't wash out as quickly as the Ultimo or the Versatil, but it does a good job. Yeah, a couple of washes and all the colors completely out, and there's no staining on the brush. Why on earth these stain, I do not know. It kind of makes me nuts. I'm like, why would they build a brush? I just don't understand that stains like that and holds on to it. That's the only oh, this was the Ultimo. Ultimo size 10. Okay. Next, so the bright size 12 Prado. This is a really extensive review, don't you think? I think I'm doing a good job here. Reviewing 2 in 1 video, that's a big video, but I think it has merit because I see a lot of single videos on these. I don't ever see anybody doing a double video, and I think that comparing these two, because they're so similar, these two travel sets, it's kind of nice to have it in one video. Comparing and contrasting, because I think by the end of this video you're either going to get both sets or you're going to definitely choose one or maybe neither and just get your own set together. So again, I'm not crazy about the brights because it's definitely not a wash brush, you know what I mean? But again, it's not supposed to be a wash brush, it's a flat. But if I were to do that with this, I would at least get more out of it, as well as having a flat. So this is the Prada 3/4 inch Prado, or Escode Prado. But again, that's a bigger brush. This is a size 12. So I have to kind of go back and paint, but it does do a nice straight line. And again, when you have a travel brush set, when you want to get those like little ocean lines, the little waves, you know, and then be able to kind of go in and do some modeling, like maybe if you're doing a tree. So let me just add a little water to this. I find that a lot of decisions are just made based on what the paint, you know, what somebody can show you that the brush will do. So if this is your style of tree, I can show you how easy it is for this brush to make a tree. And again, going back, in reality, all of these brushes are excellent brushes. They all do something that is unique that you can definitely use depending on your brush style. So you can tell that this might not equate to a good wash brush, but I can do a tree in like 2 seconds with it. And it's got enough of the dry brushing, because it doesn't hold a ton of water, where I can mix on paper and kind of get It doesn't do as great a branches as the rigger, but we could work it out. And remember, there's a rigger in this set, so I do like that. You know, I like this ability to dry brush in some landscapes in a really unique way. I think that's cool. So far, there's some uniqueness to both. Will this one do it? Yes, this one will do it too. I know you're going to ask me that. So let me just show you. So in the black one, get my paint. Sorry, guys. So I'm just kind of wetting the brush, getting a nice wet mix on my brush, and laying in some just blocks of color. This is a granulation color. And then we're gonna just try and get some branches in here. Knowing that this is a flat brush, you might just want to like stab the branches in like this to get them thinner, because if you drag the brush and you try to switch directions, you know, it's not going to do, you know, everything you want. But I got a nice decent trunk in there, and then I can blend it out. Let's just grab a little extra color here. So it makes these nice trees very, very well. And I'm really glad I showed you this, because I forgot that this is the brush that does trees so easily. Guys, you know, overall in watercolor, whether you're a beginner listening to me right now, or you're an intermediate, or, you know, a weathered artist, you know, it's all about the brush, the paint, and the paper. You know, what you can do definitely depends on the brushes that you have, because they make your job so much easier. But look at that. So that's a beautiful tree. So the value of this brush, even though in the other performance tests, you might not have thought that this was a good brush to have, but now you can see it's a great brush to have, because usually when you're out on landscapes, or, you know, you need a travel brush, you're going to do a lot of trees. So that would help. Now the benefit of this set here is this Ultimo for rigger. This is, I feel like, the king of this set. This is the part that really makes this set. I would have sooner had the Versatil wash brush in this set, or an Ultimo wash brush in this set would have been like ideal, right? So maybe even making your own brush set of 3 Ultimos, like a bright Ultimo, a wash brush, and the rigger, and you would have everything that you needed. So there's a possibility maybe that, you know, you'll just make up your own set. So the reason why I like this is because a rigger gives you those lovely branches. And that's how you get the best tree branches and a really nice foreground, as well as these little blades of grass. So quickly and so easily. And because this one, even though it's a size 4, it's an Ultimo, the benefit of it being an Ultimo is it holds a lot more water, and it holds a decent amount of paint. So if you were using another brush that isn't meant to hold a lot of water, you have to reload your brush constantly, especially at a size 4. That's why I tend to use larger ones. So this is a great brush. I'm so pleased that this brush is included. But in comparison, if you grab my, here, the size 10 Versatil rigger, I know this seems like a mambo brush, but let me tell you, it's loaded with paint. This is just a light wash of paint, and I can get the same little blades of grass with this brush, and it just literally, I can do the entire painting on one brush load of color and one thing of wash, you know? So it's a lot of perfection, or a lot of achievement can happen right through a great brush. This is just an awesome brush. I wonder if they make this one in a travel size. That would be fun to have this brush in a travel size, because this brush actually, this is going to be a nice ad for this brush. This brush can even do a wash, you know, like, see the what? I can do a nice even wash with this brush, and I can do some nice tree effects as well with this brush, as well as doing the branches. So I can literally do an entire painting in this one brush. But it doesn't travel well because it's really big and long, and you'd have to protect the bristles, so you'd need like a little wood box to keep it in, so that, you know, so your travel set becomes much larger. It's got a bigger profile, and you know, you have to be careful not to bend your bristle and crush your bristles, but like, you know, so cool, right? So this I'm going to point out as the Versatil size 10. And this is typical stuff for sketchbooks. This is great for sketchbooks. You should definitely take notes and use your sketchbook to do these tests, these trials, these paintings. You know what I mean? Okay, so this was, here's my pen. So this one was the black set, and this was the bright brush, which is a size 12, and it's the Perla. Yes. And these are the Ultimo. So I kind of just went through with different brushes here to show you, but we'll just make notes. Okay, so see what I mean? So you can kind of start to see the application of the different things. So this one, going back to our green set, is the size 12 Prado. And if we wanted to do a wash on the bottom, would we do it with this? So if I take a little bit of my greens here, I can do a wash, but it's mostly like a dry brush wash. Add a little more water, and I can do a decent wash. Not an even wash with this brush by far. It does rinse out really quickly though. Then we go back to our Escode Ultimo, our little tiny powerhouse of a brush that's in this set, and you can definitely get a little bit better wash because of the belly of this little tiny brush. When you see a big belly on a brush, you know you're going to get a nicer wash if the brush is made to be close to sable or squirrel. If it's closer to sable, it probably will do a little more detail. If it's close to squirrel, squirrel is a very loose kind of effect, which I'm just going to show you in a second. Boy, you guys are getting a lot from this. You're getting an extensive brush lesson that I usually give in my courses at JacquelineJax.com. So terrific brush. Okay, so the only thing I didn't do is write it down. Ultimo size 4, rigger. The rigger is very similar to a round, but it's just longer. And let's grab some paint. Need more paint. Running out of paint. There we go. So you can see it does really nice lines. It does nice washes. This is all with the same. Remember, we just loaded this once, so it's channeling a lot of water, and this is the belly. And then it does some dry brushing at the end. So for some really cool like painterly effects. can do that dry brushing, and then if you go back and you grab some green. So now I've got my little beach scene here, right? My little dune scene. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that, just with that one tiny little brush. So really, this green set is, I would say, really super flexible because of the brushes that are in it. So as an overall review here, before I grab a squirrel for you, just as a comparison, contrasting the two brushes, looking at them, the Versatil is so good with the washes, but you can achieve the same result with the Barocco as long as you work at it just a little bit more, concentrating on the color, how much color you mix. At the same time, it delivers a really nice even color, where this one you can get a little more like variations in color, right? As the brush wears out. On the Versatil, though, you also get the dry brushing, and in addition, you can do the back effects. The back effects, we didn't really test them out as much. We did them in other ways, but if I were to take that same paint and want to do a little bit of negative painting, it's got a looser point, but it's restrictive enough to be able to get into those small little areas if you have a nice steady hand, and it delivers enough water to be able to do granulation. So the green still right now is leading me, even though I like this brush better. I can still do everything I need to do with this brush. Okay, so it's equal as far as a good wash brush, just so we're clear. Even though I like the quality of the Versatil better, it's still equal as far as a good wash brush. So the green set is leading me in my rating. The two bright brushes, I actually like this quality of this brush better than the white Toray. Remember, the white Toray doesn't really wash out very easily, where this one cleans out really, really quickly, and that's the Prado. The bristles are more like sable hair, which is a really nice feel to the bristles. And of course, you know, this is as far as this compared to this. Look, I love the fact that you can get these nice delicate little lines with this, but I love the fact that this brush offers so much more, right? So like if I were only gonna have 3 brushes with me, I would prefer to take this one with me because it holds more paint, it's got a larger belly, and I can still do really nice wistful kind of things. Can I do the leaves? Yeah, I can do the leaves too. Running out of color. Clean out my little schmeeka thing. Let me get a little more color for you guys so you can see this better. So, of course, we can get that same, you know, that same point, but it's very, very juicy until the brush, you know, starts to lose some of its water. So if you dab a little of the water out, you'll get the same effect. It's not as elegant looking though as this. So I would have to, in order to get that, I would have to really work some of the water out of the brush. And there we go. And then I can get that nice point. So just by working a little of the water. So in this way, the other brush, this one, performs better for those elegant little small shapes. But as you can see, I'm starting to get a hand for it to produce that same kind of wistful look. I just have to paint it in a little bit more, unless I get just the right mix of color on my brush. But the brush is very loose, and I'm not going to lie, this one does that so much easier. So if you're looking for this, if you're looking for these type of leaf shapes, this brush or something similar is going to do it for you. And that's the value in that set. if you're looking for something, you know, you can use overall to paint with, then I prefer this one because it does more. I'm just, you know, not entirely if I were going to take only one brush set on vacation with me, it would be the green set. You know, so if I had to choose one or the other, so far the green's the leader. Now the other brush sets that they have, the red, the blue, all very good. They all do things in different ways. So I encourage you to kind of look at your brushes now that you've done this with me here, and consider the things that I've told you to consider when you choose your brushes, because now you kind of know that the belly has a lot to do with it. The synthetic that it's made out of has a lot to do with the delivery. I'm just going to get out a big size 12. This is the Cosmo Top, which is a mix of natural hair. I actually received that for free in the 48 wood box set of Schminke. Let's turn this over. And I'm trying to think of where my color was that I was, oh, the blue. So you can see that a real squirrel brush gives you a lot of color and the availability of a lot of water. So if you load your brush with a lot of water, you literally could paint quite a bit. But the negative is that it's real animal hair, so it's not vegan friendly, right? The other negative is it's a very, very loose brush, and I find that most beginners are not comfortable with a really, really loose, soppy brush because they don't know how to control the water. So it does take some practice, but as far as this is a wet on dry wash, you know, it does a really, really great job, right? Now let's take the synthetic version. Okay, so that was our Da Vinci. Very expensive brush, actually. Do I think it's worth the money? I don't know. If you're a squirrel brush painter, this is the Versatil. Do the same thing. Load it with water, load it with paint. Got to load it with a little bit more water to keep it going. But that's basically what I did with the other. A little more paint. So I have to work the wash just a little bit more, right? Because the squirrel, there was so much water in the brush, it does work the paint a lot more evenly when you're doing wet on dry to do a wash. But this does just as good. The Ultimo does even better. Okay, so decent wash, right? This is why this is a kind of a mainstay among people. They like the Versatil. But you know, you can see the wash is more professional looking on the squirrel brush, and that's why those brushes are very expensive and so readily used. We can try, if you want to stick around for a second, we can try a wash with my Ultimo, because I have a great big Ultimo wash. So as a bonus here, let me grab that and we'll do a quick study on that Ultimo for you. Okay, the Ultimo. This is an Ultimo size 14. I also have a 16, but 14 is going to work out just fine. So I loaded it with water, loaded it with paint. It's a big brush. So probably an overkill for this size paper, but if you wanted to do a wash real quick, I mean, look at that. That's crazy, right? You see how it moves? It just wets the paper, and this is just sketchbook paper. If I go back in, still has color in the brush, and this is why I am so crazy about the Ultimos. I love them. So if you really wanted to do a wash really, really fast, the closest thing to squirrel is the Ultimo. It really does handle it so well, and I can go back in and just do more washes. It's really, really pretty. It's definitely not as streaky as the Versatil coming right out of the gate. And if I wanted to layer more color, very easily I can go over, because it just gives you so much water, you know, that it gives you that depth of color. Now, as far as smoothness, you're really not going to get anything like the quality that you get in a Da Vinci, but the price is so much more expensive. So when you're reviewing Da Vinci natural hairbrushes compared to, you know, the Escoda brushes are amazing, and they are very, very good quality brushes, and I absolutely adore the line. There's actually, I prefer the Escoda line over the Da Vinci line, but again, the Da Vinci brushes that I have, I use a ton because they're just so reliable, and they really do an awesome job. So you can see a huge difference here. In the Ultimo, love it. The Natural Squirrel, kind of nothing like it for a wash. And the Versatil, a lot more streaky, not even distribution of color, but a good brush for beginners still, you know? So this is the Versatil. And all these pages, by the way, are going to go into my size 16 wash. Are going to go into my sketchbook. Da Vinci, size 12, the Cosmo top, and this is the Escoda Ultimo size 14. Well, that was a ridiculously long brush review. So what you can do for me is tell me how I did if you stuck around this long, and let me know if you'd like to see more really long brush reviews like this where they're really extensive, or just really quick brush reviews, and what you thought of these brushes. Like, let me know which one you thought was better and what you would do as far as your travel brush set. Would you go with the black or the green set? Would you create your own? Would you add additional brushes to these sets, since you have this really nice travel case and the pocket? If you could get this brush around like under $60 American on a sale, would you get that, you know, paying about $20 per brush for including this? Or would you just buy these individually? And if so, which ones would you get? You know, would you buy, how would you put your brushes together? I know what I would do, but in any case, you've heard my opinion, and I hope you guys like this brush review. It was really fun to do. I learned a lot, actually, and I always do. So happy painting, and I will see you guys again soon.